All right, we're back for Barbecue Bits. Glenn Higgs, Billy Drury. We're talking about the facts, the feelings, and the numbers on the ground today at our Saturday Open Homes. Stay tuned. All right, we're live.
We're live, and we're coming up one more week of regular rounds, and then it's footy final time.
Yes.
All the major codes, rugby league and AFL, I think rugby union, are having their grand finals. A lot of your local amateur teams, they went around last week. A grade played in their rugby league grand final. But we're going to go through the grand final of real estate, Billy. The Saturday wrap, interesting barbecue bits to chat. Open homes. How were they today, Billy?
A busy set of open homes today. The team, Lisa, Michael, Jonathan, and JB, John Bonet, had a very busy run. I think they got back at 4 o'clock, left at 10 a.m. So plenty to look at.
I think they did 6 today. I had 6. Steph had 3. Billy had a couple.
Yeah.
Mark and Badan had a few commercials as well. Mark's still going. At 5 o'clock, the 24/7 never stops at Novak. Open home numbers, the great Steve Buffalo, the great Cherokee, he had 13 and 14 through entry-level 2-bedroom units in DY for our international audience and interstate audience. Entry-level 2 bedrooms in DY, New South Wales, Northern Beaches. They're selling around $775 to about $825. So
doing really well.
You know, that marketplace, $800,000, where stamp duty isn't payable, is really, really hot. That market there. So they did pretty well.
Yeah.
And I saw some other teens come through as well.
Yeah.
Even teen numbers.
Even a couple of the pre-markets off the database doing what they need to be done in the first couple of open homes. Sometimes a bit slower, sometimes it's off to a great start, but across the board, not many zeros. I don't think there was one at all.
No, we didn't get the duck egg today on any of our open homes, and we touched on it briefly. If no one turns up to your open home, sometimes no one's better than one, and you might think, well, Glenn, how could having no buyers be better than one? One may give you, a false sense that everything's tracking well as an owner or as an agent.
Yes.
Where 0, it's an opportunity to say, hey, what can we do? What can we do better? What strategy can we use? I've had the 3 levers: price, product, or promotion. Which one do we need to beef up?
Really, yes, well said.
Absolutely. So sometimes we can have fake results and they mask what's really going on.
Go back to the drawing board and that's it.
Well, that's basically that is it. Like we can modify our price strategy. We can look at increasing our marketing or redoing it. Often at Novak, we will redo it, the whole thing. And we're very fortunate at Novak that we have the ability to redo it, because all our marketing's in-house: photographer, floor plans, media, social media. All those people are in-house.
Yeah, it's a quick turnaround.
Yeah, and we're not engaging expensive services out. We're lucky that Mr. and Mrs. Novak, they foot the bill for it.
Yeah.
Most agencies, to have a photographer, the owner would foot the bill, or the agent, to get it reshot. Here, we just use the stuff that are already on the payroll, which the Novaks pay for.
Which is I think the major winner there is obviously the customer.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, it's a really handy thing to have, so accessible.
So exciting properties that came to market this week, young Bilson.
Well, we've got a couple actually. The team got around on our Monday activities and went and had a look at a few new ones. It was my first Monday back, so this has been the first proper week back in action since a couple of weeks off. touring around the Great Barrier Reef. But your favourite?
Look, I really liked the small fish are the sweetest. It was a studio in DY.
Yep.
So we've been discussing $16 million homes. Lisa and Michael sold one for $8 million the other day, or just under $8 million in the eastern suburbs. But this was a 600,000 studio apartment in DY, northwest facing, and the feel of the property was just, it felt bigger. It did have a slight divider between your sleeping quarters and your living quarters. But what was really interesting about that, it's returning almost 600 a week.
Yeah, $590 a week. For me, that felt like value for money when I walked in.
Well, value for money for investors, and we need investors desperately at the moment because, there's a lack of rental properties, and we'll get to that in a minute. But for an investor, 600 a week, 30,000 a year.
Yeah.
You buy it for 600. Gross, it's 5%.
And in a new building where you're going to get some tax depreciation, there's also some other incentives there as well.
So, it's very rare in residential real estate that you're getting over 3.7, 3.8%.
Yes.
But this is gross. When a net figure probably would be closer to 4.2, but we might see interest rates drop down to that in the long term. And then you've got a neutrally geared property, which is, just savings.
It's awesome. Mine was actually a 2-bedroom down the beach end in Pacific Parade.
That was mine.
A very good-looking signboard out there.
Oh, yeah. Look, I have a signboard now, and that's circa Glen 1980s, and I have a head like this is circa Glen 2023. So, unfortunately, I keep talking, Billy. I'll find the photo.
Well, the reason I quite like this is it's reassuring as an agent and also as a buyer to know you can still get into a 2-bedroom apartment around the 760 to 800 price point. As Glenn touched on, you won't be paying any stamp duty if you're a first-home buyer there, which is just great because you're so close to the beach. It rents really well. There wasn't a huge amount of work to do. Still, you can add a little bit of value, but nice to see.
Yeah, look, it's a little bit unusual. It's in a block where none of the properties have a balcony. But I challenge anyone to drive through DY at the moment with a BB gun. You won't be able to shoot anyone on the balcony. No one uses their balcony.
It's true.
So, if, we're moving forward and we're designing new properties, I really think what's more usable is the winter garden.
Yep.
For those that don't know what that is, it's an enclosed balcony. That will have louvers, it might have fly screens. So it's still accessible and it would still come under the code as a balcony, but far more use. The notion of having a balcony and having a barbecue, I think, is very rarely used.
And quite often you find these properties have got a bit of extra internal space. Sometimes they prioritise parking in some areas. So it's not always a bad thing. In fact, the place I bought has no balcony. No problem.
No balcony, no problem. That should be a song, Billy. You can serenade me with that over the weekend.
What a tune that would be.
So we've got a fantastic young bloke, Jared Price, in property management now, finding new properties to come on and be managed by Novak. Anything in leasing that stood out, Billy?
Well, from what I've overheard, a conversation this afternoon, a busy open home run team last month leased 27 properties, or maybe that was this month's numbers. That's just pretty much finished. Yes, we're into a new month. 27 properties, but they've just listed and got an application for a 2-bedroom apartment in Meritan, around $1,000 a week.
Wow, you are.
Yeah.
So they've turned out to be fantastic investment properties. The Lighthouse Development in DY. Michael Silich. You don't see him a lot, but he does a lot. That should be his saying. That should be his catchphrase. You don't see me a lot, but I do a lot, because he's not on social much. He's just busy selling. He won the award as Meritan Independent Sales Agent of the Year. The office won an award along the similar lines. He sold about 50 in that development.
Yes.
When it was sold off the plan out of 360. So Meritan had their own internal sales team of about 5, and then there was Michael selling them. But they've turned out to be fantastic properties, a fantastic bonus for DY getting that development.
Absolutely.
That was actually award winning, best mid-sized commercial and residential development in Australia.
And I think now one of the best Woolworths.
One of the best Woolworths.
So
if you don't know DY, we have 2 Coles, we have an Audi, we have the best Woolworths in the state, servicing 22,000 people, approximately 22,000 people.
Quite outstanding.
So,
favourite sold result before we move on?
Sold result. Well, we did sell one in the eastern suburbs.
I was going to say, we're out of area again.
Billy, tell the people.
Well, this was actually a joint partnership with Southersby's. I hope I said that right.
Yeah,
Southersby's, it's almost like a cider as well, I believe.
Oh, really?
But however, this was on the market with another few local agents for a number of months in partnership with those guys. Pulled a deal together at a phenomenal price. The owner was ecstatic with in 25 days.
In 25 days. One of the things they did, but they Novak'd the marketing.
They did.
So out goes our photographer, jumps in the car across the bridge from Novak HQ, Novak floor plans, Novak copywriting, bingo, bango, bongo, a property that had been on the market for 3 months is sold. So strategy is just as important as being a local agent.
Absolutely.
Billy sold one in Epping, record price. So if you have a property and it's not in DY, don't think we can't help you. We can sell it. We can put you in touch with someone that we can assist in marketing it the Novak way.
That's it.
So what would people be talking about around a barbecue? I'm going to throw this on you, Billy.
Yes.
I think they'd be saying, I can't find a rental property.
Absolutely. We touched on it before. We are in the midst of a rental crisis, ladies and gentlemen, on the northern beaches. There is simply not enough available stock. On realestate.com, domain tends to be a little bit more. And the reason for that, any prospective tenants, when you're in your search, is landlords don't have to pay for domain. So it often makes sense to list on there first. But between the two, the queues are not getting any shorter. Yeah.
And people say, how did this happen? How could we not have enough properties in a country the size of Australia? Well, the fact is we started off, with the first fleet. There were no homes.
Yes.
No European homes. So the first Australians, they had their homes. But for the new people coming, they've had to build. And that's always happened. We've always had a positive increase in population. Immigration has been a great success in Australia. Most of what we can say is great about Australia has been through immigration, but we need to house those people. And we have incredibly slow, especially in New South Wales, approval of processes. So the Meritan one that we talk about, that was on the sort of developers' radar, the council's radar, the state radar for about 15 years to build a landmark development.
Quite unbelievable.
And it took someone as skillful as Meritan, Harry Triggerboff, to pull it off.
Yes.
And they have, Stev and I touched on it the other week too, going vertical is probably, the easiest answer to get more property. Strata properties will probably take a hit. Going further out west, well, we're already out at Oran Park.
Yes.
We're out at Pitt Town with developments, and we're getting 50 to 60 kilometres away from the CBD. Our relationship to work's changed a little bit, where we don't have to go in. So we really need incentives, build to rent, get developers not looking at building to sell, but give them incentives, build to rent.
Yes.
We have to understand that it may not be possible for everyone one day to own their own property. We may be like some parts of the world where people rent, and families and generations rent their whole life, and we'll have to change legislation. But enough of that philosophy, of that thinking. Let's have some really good tips for people looking to get a rental. Now, Billy started off here when he was always tall. I can't say when he was this tall, because he was always tall when he started here, but he was only a young fella at school, and he worked on Sundays and assisted people and ran our espresso bar, so when customers come in, they can have a coffee. Billy also then went into leasing.
Yes.
So he dealt with tenants. And then before his 20th birthday, he ran a portfolio in property management of 500 properties when he relieved one of our staff on maternity leave. So that in itself is a huge achievement. But Billy, practical tips. I'm a tenant. I need to find a new rental property. So I'm an existing tenant.
Yep.
And the property that I'm in, I want to move from. Owner's going to sell it. It's too small. What should I take with me? How do I, stand out? Because if there's 20 people looking to rent, what's a good tip?
Well, first and foremost, if you're fortunate enough to have an existing relationship with your managing agent, let them do as much work as they can for you to begin with. So prioritize looking at what they might have coming up, what they might have available at the moment, or what they might be able to, put you in touch with other people first, as maybe some of your strongest leads first. This is where you're going to get the most amount of, the legwork done with hopefully the least amount of energy output.
Because they'll even know your rental history as well. So if you've got a ledger and, there was some reason fridge blew up, the car broke down, in Thailand they say the buffalo got sick. That's what my wife says when I have to send money over there. Oh, my buffalo's sick. But you're a sugarcane farmer. But yeah, I'm still paying. But what I would say is, they understand that sometimes there might be a mark on your ledger. You've caught up, and they can explain that through. So start with them. Should you apply before you go to the property, or should you see it first?
No, absolutely. You can apply before the property, and the portals and the way technology has changed, it's getting easier and easier without hopefully adding too much to your workload to be able to, get your applications out nice and fast, and quality ones where you can have everything ready to go before you get there.
So I'm someone that hasn't rented for a while, and I've sold my property and I've got to rent. What would you suggest? I haven't got an agent. What would you suggest I do?
Look, before we get to the nitty gritty, as a general compliment to our team, I've never seen such a proactive rentals sector of the business than what we've got here. So before you really worry yourself, honestly, reach out to our team.
Okay.
And they will look after you. But there's obviously a few tips that I think they can give you as well.
Okay. And would you have one tip for someone?
Want to make sure you've got your supporting documentation.
And what would that be?
That's your driver's license, proof of savings. Sometimes it's a work reference if you're overseas or something like that. And just make sure your references are actually accessible, contactable on the phone. So don't put your boss down that he's going to Greece in 5 weeks and not answering the phone for a month. Put maybe your manager or your HR person.
And if you are looking for something on the Northern Beaches, we always talk about this. Person rings me, my friend's daughter needs a property. I talk to our business development manager. That's basically someone that finesses all the new managements. They had something, and from an 11 o'clock phone call, we then found a property for someone to move in at 1 o'clock. I think they moved the next day. So it can happen that quick. Have a good relationship. with the property management staff. If you're an existing tenant and there's a couple of times your ledgers got out of kilter just because of life, get it up to date. Talk to your property manager that you are applying, give them the reason why. So when they ring and ask for that ledger, the property manager can sort of explain some of it to you. And by all means, message us, ring us if you're having some problems. Now, Billy, we're not off to the finals tonight because that starts next week. What is Billy up to tonight? A little birdie told me that Billy was in Manly last week.
Yeah, last week, that's true. This week will be far more sensible. It's actually, as many of you know, Father's Day. So I hope you've got some nice festivities lined up.
I'm always saying this. My family goes away on Monday. They're going to Nias in Sumatra or somewhere. I don't really pay too much attention to where they're going. I just look at how much it's costing. And then, so we'll just have a barbecue at home tomorrow. That'd be really, really nice. Crank the barbecue up and get some nice food before I'm going on sort of rations, living by myself. Billy, what are you up to tomorrow? Father's Day, your wonderful father?
Yes, Dad, there'll be some sort of treat for you. Don't ask what just yet because I haven't worked that bit out yet. Right. However, no doubt, just a bit of quality time with the family.
And, family's really important at Novak. It is a family business. So we're not really, we've got a few sneaky little private inspections tomorrow. Might turn up in our casual gear, but no Sunday specials tomorrow. Father's Day, Mother's Day, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, Easter Sunday, the only Sundays that you won't see a schedule open.
Stay tuned for next week. There's going to be a Sunday special bonanza.
It is. Where I think let's go for 10. Now, I don't want to. I was going to say a lot of offices wouldn't have 10 opens, but let's go for 10 opens between us, Billy, and servicing everyone that's working like us 24/7. Because Sundays is great. There are a lot of people run their own business, work in industries that are 7 days a week. Sunday's about the only time they get off.
Well, to those people, there's no days off, but there's moments off. And those Sunday inspections are maybe a moment you can get a break.
So look for that. Everyone have a great Father's Day tomorrow, and we'll be back next Saturday.
We'll be back. Stay tuned. See you guys.